Hello, it's me again, and this is a new episode of Sound Design Lab. Today we've got an interesting episode about synth. And the reason I suddenly decided to make this video is that Universal Audio just dropped their new synth Anthem. I'm sorry, I'm not a native speaker, so I'm not sure how to pronounce this word correctly. But this video is not about that synth. I'm not gonna review it, at least for now. Here is how they describe it. Put the biggest, baddest analog sounds at your fingertips. Sculpt enormous bass and powerful leads that fill out your song. Okay, it sounds solid, it sounds cool, but also it sounds familiar. And I believe it. It's Universal Audio, their products are ones of the best, and I'm sure this synth is as great as other UAD's products. But reading this, I think we've heard something like that when Massive came out, Massive X, Serum, Serum 2, Arturia, and this new release made me think, how many synths do you actually need? Of course, there are a lot of unique synths with complex algorithms that would be complex to recreate. But in general, is the difference between synths really that big? Do you actually need Massive or Serum if you have Vital? Do you need Vital or Massive if you have Serum? And so on. Why not find out? To do that, I opened Vital and Massive X and reset all the parameters. Then I choose the wave with the same name, in this case it's called Quad Saw, and since both synths are on default settings, we can now hear the wave itself. Let's listen to them. Okay, there is some difference, but to me they sound really close. I feel like Vital has a slightly shaper mid-range, I think. Maybe there is some processor under the hood that we can't see. But I think it's obvious that they sound very close. Let's compare their filters. So on Vital I set a low pass filter, 12 dB, no resonance, just the default one. On Massive X I choose the SVF filter, and since Vital and Massive use different values, I tried to match them by ears. Let's listen to them. Do you hear the difference? Anyway, let's check the resonance. On Vital, I set the resonance to 50%, but to get the same sound on Massive X, I had to set it around 30%. Here is how it sounds. Well, we're getting closer to an obvious conclusion, but first, let's check the envelope on the filters. On Vital, I took env2, routed it to the cutoff, and set the attack so the filter opens slowly. Did the same thing on Massive X. The values don't match. So, for example, 1 second attack on Vital might be 800 milliseconds or 1.2 seconds on Massive. I don't know why, and I don't care. I'm not focusing on numbers, I use my ears. And using my ears, I found the setting most similar to Vital. Let's check it. I don't have to remind you that Vital is free and Massive X costs $200, right? Anyway, the last thing I wanna check is LFO. On Vital, I used this LFO with a sine wave 1:16 and routed it to modulate the pitch. On Massive X, I used LFO1 and tweaked the parameters to match the Vital settings. Let's check it. We can hear a subtle difference in the intensity of this shaking effect. Maybe they work a bit differently, or more likely, I just didn't match the settings exactly. But despite that, they sound really close. Alright, we tested 5 of the most important aspects of synthesis: oscillator, filter, resonance, envelope, LFO. And despite some small differences, vital and massive sound almost the same, which brings us to a conclusion that might be described by one word: math. At the basic level, all synths are the same because they use the same mathematical principles and formulas. And the difference between them is some encapsulated processes we can't see, like a hidden low or high shelf before the output, or emulation of analog voltage instability, or even a micro gap between the value that UIs shows us and the actual value. And of course the effects section, which is very important. And by the way, I'm not gonna taste the effects section here, because it's obvious that EQs, compressors, delays, reverbs will not sound the same across different synths. But despite those differences, can you create the same sound with different synths? My answer is yes, and here is my example. So I took this beat, added some EQ and DBX style compressor. Then I crafted a simple bass in vital and recreated the same timbre in massive. Also I use LA2A on both. Then I created a simple key sound in vital with a filter and envelope and matched it in massive. On both I used 1176 and NIF style EQ. Last one is a simple lead line. Here are my vital settings. You can see I use a filter, envelope and LFO. And again I recreated the same timbre in massive. Here I used an API style EQ and some whole reverb. So this is how I produced a simple short beat. Let's listen to it and keep in mind that orange tracks are vital and blue tracks are massive. Okay, there is some small difference, but I spent only around 5-7 minutes to make it. Which means, if you spend more time, you can get them sound even closer. Which, in my opinion, proves that you can create the same sound with different synths. Which can be taken as an answer: no, you don't need massive if you have serum or vital. You don't need vital if you have massive or serum, and so on. Based on rational thinking. But what if having vital and massive and serum and this new UAD synth just makes you happy?